Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Pam Shima. I'm the Director for Birmingham Tech. Delighted to have you here today at our Going Global session. It's going to be a great session. We've got some wonderful speakers. We're going to hear from Tim Kay, Melissa Snover, and Andrew Hawkins. The session is an interactive session, so please do put your questions and answers into the chat, and we look forward to hearing from you. So on that note, I'm just going to hand over to our speaker, Andrew. Thank you.
Thanks, Pam. Good afternoon. Welcome everybody to Going Global, the latest talk as part of the Birmingham Tech Week. As Pam said, delighted to be joined by Melissa Snover, CEO and founder of Get Nourished, and also Tim Kay, Deputy Director, Department for International Trade, covering technology. My name is Andrew Hawkins, our Relationship Director with HSBC, working within our international subsidiary banking business. Global connectivity is steeped in HSBC's DNA. We have over 150 years of global experience with an unrivaled reach covering 71 countries and territories. Harnessing HSBC's strategic objective of opening up a world of opportunity, I work directly with businesses who either have their headquarters overseas and are looking to or have operations in the UK, and similarly work with colleagues within our global network to help UK businesses expand their operations into new territories. So today we're hoping to have a lively and informal discussion looking at the global landscape within tech, discussing some of the challenges and opportunities that we're currently all seeing. We'll start off with some more in-depth introductions by the rest of the panel before going into a bit of a roundtable discussion on a number of relevant and current topics. And we're going to finish up with an open floor Q&A session from the audience. So questions can be raised at any time, so please do drop these into the Q&A option, and we'll look forward to covering off as many as we can later on. So to kick things off, Melissa, if I could just pass over to you, it'd be great to have you tell us more about your story and journey with Get Nourished.
Sure. So yeah, I'm Melissa Snover. I'm the CEO and founder of Remedy Health, and Get Nourished is one of our brands. So we're a tech company based in Digbeth, Birmingham, which is developing 3D printing systems which allow for rapid, scalable, and mass-produced customization of health and wellness products. We currently have the world's first personalized gummy vitamin product, Nourished, in markets in both the United States and the United Kingdom. We've just launched our kids range. We're on the way towards launching Nourished Protein, which will be personalized protein bars. We're also working on personalized medicine under our brand Scripted. And the business has really started I think 18 months ago, so right before the pandemic. We've grown from less than 10 people to over 100. We're just in the process of setting up our third site, and we really have grown from a revenue point of view by around 600% year on year. So we're seeing some really neck break growth here, and yeah, we find the Midlands region to be extremely beneficial for that. But yeah, looking forward to the discussion today.
Perfect, thank you. And Tim, do you want to give an overview in terms of your role within the DTI?
I can certainly try. So yeah, welcome everyone. Good to be here. So yeah, as Andrew says, I'm Deputy Director over here at DIT, where I look after the tech sector team. So what does that mean in practice? It means we support UK companies growing by helping them expand overseas, and then effectively vice versa. So how do we attract global technology firms to come into the UK? We do that in lots of different ways, and actually I think I might leave some of that for hopefully the discussion that we get into. But in general, that is, how do we promote UK companies into global markets? How do we connect them with partners? How do we assist with the mechanics of expansion overseas? So yeah, great to be here, and yeah, looking forward to the discussion.
Perfect, thanks. So I mean, I guess Melissa, kind of going back to a hugely impressive growth story that you've kind of seen in a very a short space of time, but also some kind of unprecedented times as well, given COVID and the geopolitical landscape. For you, really, in terms of the challenges you've seen, and clearly that there are heaps right now, whether it be talent war, looking at ways of automation, even how we're going to interact going forward in terms of the future of work. what would you kind of say have been the biggest challenges that you've kind of come up against, either so far or throughout the business history?
Well, I think our business is really unique in the fact that it is really a full stack business in a way that's more comprehensive than I've ever seen before. And I chose to do that because of my experience working in other types of setups in the past. So I started my career in FMCG, working in big format factories. I've worked with corporates all over the world. This is actually my fourth business. And some of the things that I learned during those experiences were about depending too heavily on third-party supply chains, outsourcing too much of what you are supposed to be held accountable for. And so when I developed this concept and the 3D printers themselves, which are the machines that make all of our products, I decided I wanted to make sure that that all could be maintained in-house. So we presently have two factories, one where we build our own production machines from scratch, and one where we make our entire consumer product end to end from scratch. And I think that a lot of people told me when I was doing that in the beginning that it was a mistake. I can't tell you how many investors told me that I should outsource it and this, that, and the other thing. And I really stuck to my guns because I believed in it very much. And I'm so glad that I did, because when Brexit happened, and then of course the pandemic hit about 10 weeks after we launched, it meant that certainly we struggled with things that you could expect, like people being afraid and safety of the staff and implementing new measures to ensure protection of their health and wellness on site. We didn't suffer the same way as many of our other competitors because we had really built in so much capability in-house. And 3D printers are robots. Automation is at the heart of everything we do. And I set the business up being completely paperless, completely cloud-based. So when, half of our team had to go and work from home, we didn't really miss a beat. Nothing really happened. But I have worked in other organizations where that would have been a humongous issue. And so I was really happy that we had spent the money and the time to set that up in the way that we did, because it's paying dividends still today. And I think it will continue as we go on.
Absolutely. I think so many of these kind of strands here are things that wouldn't have been foreseen two years ago, right? And so the message here in terms of what I'm hearing from my clients really is about being agile and able to adapt to these different surroundings. Tim, from your perspective, what are you kind of seeing in terms of challenges that businesses are having right now?
Yeah, well, maybe if I answer that, just sort of picking up on what Melissa has said, but maybe from the other side. So, no one would wish the last 18 months, on anyone today. But if it has done one positive thing, it is to show, the benefits and opportunities that there is in, whatever you want to call it, transformation, digitalization, whatever the phrase of the day is. And actually, we're seeing that very much from a sort of UK tech sector perspective, and the opportunities that has, quite frankly, opened up in the last 6, 12, 18 months. And it was why I was smiling when Melissa was talking about having the full stack in the business, because of course what it's done is not just opened up opportunities in the sectors that maybe us around the table would have expected, but you've had entire industries having to flip a switch basically overnight, in terms of how they deal with remote workforces, customers not being able to come in to buy their goods and services. So actually, as I said, we wouldn't wish this on anyone, but from a UK tech perspective, it has definitely opened up markets and opportunities that would probably always have been there, but they've just been drawn forward. They've just been accelerated in terms of when they've come on stream. So
I was going to say, I mean, it's essentially fast forwarded a landscape that would have taken years to have got there without the hand being forced on many corporates that COVID has kind of done there.
Education, healthcare, okay, you can talk about retail as well, as I'm sure Melissa will, but there are some sectors where this was maybe 5, 7, 10 years out, and it is now, well, here. So.
Yeah, I can totally agree with that. And I think, it's actually the most complex thing is to ship physical goods still, right? So if you have a service-based business and you're not already global, why? Why? That would be my question. So I think what this has done is really also caused people to question some of the old processes that they had. I remember traveling for 16 hours to do a 1-hour meeting. Like I used to do it regularly and I will never ever do it ever again.
Absolutely. I mean, it's amazing the reach that we can get now from communicating digitally, and also the acceptance of that. It's not a subservient way of communicating. It's exactly an equal way of having a meeting. And that, as you say, in terms of the time taken or the time spent traveling versus just connecting through a Zoom call is absolutely fantastic. I think it's really opened up ways that we can talk to all of our customers, whether that be, for yourself, Melissa and Tim, but also ourselves as well. And it really does bring everyone a lot closer and brings more of a personal angle to it. I guess just going on further from these challenges, in terms of how you've kind of overcome them, Melissa. I mean, is this really through experience? Any particular ways that you've kind of sought to kind of seek guidance, or is it really just from, I guess, your experience of knowing the business, knowing the sector, and knowing what's going to work?
I mean, I've had a career that kind of morphed and moved on from one stage to the next. And I started developing 3D printing technology in 2015 for confectionery. And then it, naturally moved into what I do today. But I think, the challenges that we face now are not tech related, in my opinion. I believe that there is so much good tech available in off-the-shelf solutions. And I think about like 10 years ago when we were looking at like integrating things like SAP, and that you may still need SAP, you may, but the available off-the-shelf technology solutions across online sales, accounting, bookkeeping, expenses, travel searching, data control, BI tools, project management that's off the shelf and really reasonably priced, and mostly on a monthly, cost, as opposed to this crazy upfront cost, is insanely amazing. And what you can do with that now, I think, is more widespread and more granular than you could have ever done before, and for 1/100th of the price or more, right? So I think that the number of businesses that have access to this stuff, which used to be custom-made solutions that were very expensive for big corporates, is super empowering and really impressive. And if anything, should just continue to galvanize more and more people to start their own businesses, to improve internal organizations, because this stuff is available. And it's really incredible, the breadth of the different options that you can get your hands on with a Google search.
Yeah, sure. No, I agree there. My thinking here is it makes it way more of a level playing field versus, like you say, the giant corporations who used to have the budgets and the resource to kind of do this, through to the smaller businesses who can just use this to further enhance their proposition. And absolutely, I think now there is the expectation of straight through processing and automation, just to remove as much of a manual process as possible. So corporates of all size can make sure that they've got their staff doing useful generative activities, rather than being here processing tasks that can now be taken over by technology. So this kind of goes back to your point, Melissa, really, that it's the enabler, right, in terms of where technology kind of fits in here.
Absolutely. And I think, when I think about the challenges we face as a business today, they are things like a staffing shortage. They are things like escalating fuel costs and shipping charges. There's nothing to do with technology. It's actually the old-fashioned stuff that you actually didn't really think about for quite a while. That is like, oh, it's still here, and actually it's quite important, and we kind of deprioritized it. We're getting through it, and we're lucky because we're in Birmingham. We can recruit really great talent, and we have great retention. But those are things that you don't really think about as a tech company as going to be your big challenge. And it's kind of like, it's kind of come full circle.
No, I think you're right. Then I guess it's as you say. If you thought even 6 months ago where your biggest challenges were going to be going into Q4 of this year, you wouldn't thought it was going to be on fuel prices or availability of staff. And clearly, we're now quite right as you put there. We're almost going back to the more straightforward, old-fashioned challenges here in terms of the pressures and costs of businesses, which are harder to solve. I guess just following on from that kind of key point you made there, Melissa, in terms of Birmingham. I mean, how do you feel that Birmingham plays its part? I mean, in terms of the West Midlands as a tech hub, how do you feel that Birmingham plays its part to truly making the region a global player on the tech landscape?
I absolutely adore Birmingham, and I couldn't be a bigger proponent of the area. Had we not started in Birmingham, I 100% know that we would not have gotten to where we are today. That is on the back of several factors. So access to space, cost of space, access to talent, the number of great universities on our doorstep, the collaborative and supportive nature of the community of Digbit specifically, but Birmingham overall is so conducive to growth. It really, really has made a humongous difference to our business. Technology-wise, I've always liked Birmingham because it is a massive tech hub and it's kind of like a secret. It's like nobody knows about it. And I'm quite fine with that. But because I think in the tech world, one day it won't really matter where you're based. Why does it really matter where a tech company is based today anyway? Most good tech companies are operating on a global scale. They have staff globally. With the remote working that the pandemic has made so much more commonplace, I think the idea of a company being based in a certain area is going to become less and less relevant, I think. At the end, we are a manufacturer too, so that is important for the area that we are because we become a major employer eventually, right? And that's important, but that's a little bit different. I think, the Midlands in general has a hugely diverse community, a hugely supportive network of people. The cost of doing business is considerably lower than even Manchester. I have 2 buildings right now and over 30,000 square feet, and the combined monthly cost is less than a 6-man office in Manchester. That is a humongous difference. That's not even a times 10. That's such a huge difference. And it's not even London I'm comparing to, which most people always do. I think that single thing has saved me so much money and given me freedom to operate, freedom to grow, freedom to buy for the future in a way that I would never have been able to do. And it's given me safety and calm that we can then use the rest of that capital in order to expand, to innovate, to develop our workforce and our talent profile and our tech solutions. And I think that is why I would never move our HQ from Birmingham ever. And yeah, I think, of course, we would be very happy if Birmingham is recognized on a global scale, but I also don't think it matters. It is amazing regardless of how many people recognize that.
And I guess in terms of keen to get your kind of view here from the outside of Birmingham and the international side, how do you see the areas viewed? Appreciate, you say it's almost like the best kept secret here, but in terms of how our international friends view Birmingham, do you think it has the reputation that it kind of rightly deserves?
Yeah, this is where I suppose I'm smiling at what Melissa's just said, which is given that one of my rules is to promote the UK tech scene, then I will politely disagree that I don't want Birmingham to be the best kept secret. I would like it to be much better known, and that's obviously with the confession that I spent 4 years up in the West Midlands. So I am a fan generally. I think the region, whether you call it, whether we're talking Birmingham, West Midlands, I think it does have name recognition. But actually, it's interesting, just picking up on something else Melissa said. I think that name recognition comes from maybe other sectors at the minute. So, we obviously do a lot on the global scale across automotive. We do it across manufacturing, and, the West Midlands is well and truly at the top of that list when we're having those conversations. I think obviously in some specific areas, in some specific sectors, the West Midlands is is on that list when it comes to tech as well. Life sciences obviously would be another one. But I think the piece that we're finding, funny enough, not from a trade side, but from an inward investment side, is actually the piece that Melissa mentioned there about the manufacturing and the skills piece. So again, there's an element here of, over the past 50, 100, 150 years, the West Midlands has built up this manufacturing skills base, which is constantly being updated, and more those skills and those expertise, that expertise is percolating across, because we're not just talking here about software, or as this is a prime example of. And actually, I think as a region, there is more to do there in terms of actually how do we not only have a strong tech cluster and a strong mobility cluster and a strong manufacturing cluster, but actually how do we bring all of those things together? Because that's where, certainly from my seat when we're promoting it on a global basis, actually that's where people are interested in. They're interested in where are those crossovers, where is it that they can find talent in its broadest sense. And the West Midlands is incredibly well positioned to do that. So.
And I think Tim's absolutely right about that. So Jaguar Land Rover's got to be the #1 value, cash value exporter from the UK, right? They go with the cars to China. Maybe it's not anymore. It used to be, and they're right around the corner from us. And they are a huge employer in the area. But you also have Gymshark, which is massive, and just set up a massive operation now in America too. But their HQ is around the corner from us. Grenade, which just got bought by Mondelez. And that's just a couple. I'm just naming a couple. So although those are not tech companies, they're certainly future forward companies, but they all have a manufacturing element. I do think that is something that the area lends itself to extremely well. And I think that as we go forward, I think you'll find more and more people wanting to be here. The Digbeth area on its own is so it's so recognizable to me from being from Brooklyn. It has got the same energy. It's super cool. It's kind of like a secret, like right on the edge of just blowing up. And it is such a great feeling to be here right now, before it gets massive and people, everybody starts coming. It's great.
Exactly. I think the kind of key point here is, and as Tim kind of mentioned, I mean, it's kind of what is tech is such a broad spectrum now, and it's not just about software. It's about how we can kind of harness technology solutions into the whole world. And with the manufacturing history and base that Birmingham has, there's a clear opportunity here, I think, to kind of bring more and more of that support into the region and really make a name for itself in that space.
Yeah, and so just, picking up on the examples that we've just used in terms of, whether it be JLR, whether it be Gymshark, the capabilities that those companies are building in data analytics, in, all of these really interesting next generation capabilities. Obviously, if they were on the call, they would say they want to retain that talent. But, from a regional perspective, having that talent, whether it be within the walls of Gymshark or in the walls of JLR, is really important, because that, in 2, 3, 4 years' time will be, they will have spun out, or they will have gone and set up their own business, or whatever it happens to be. And we would hope, or certainly the region would hope, that they would stay, within the West Midlands region, wouldn't they? So.
Absolutely. So I guess moving on for that, in terms of opportunities and future growth, particularly if businesses look to open up new markets. I mean, Tim, what sort of short or long-term opportunities do you think that we are seeing, or businesses should be sort of looking at and focusing on?
Yeah, well, look, let's get I was about to say the easy one out of the way, but it's obviously not. But let's get the straightforward one out of the way, which is obviously the US is still, a massive opportunity across, basically any subsector that you would like to mention. I will let Melissa talk about the practicalities and challenges of doing that. But I think the other pieces that we're really starting to see, I suppose, particularly with reference to Birmingham, the West Midlands, obviously India is a big corridor generally, not least on automotive, obviously. But actually then if you sort of continue around into the rest of the Asia Pacific region, Southeast Asia, we're seeing a lot of stuff around smart cities, 5G, and I don't mean just the infrastructure, but obviously everything that's being built on top of that. And then, further round or down, depending on which way you want to go, New Zealand and Australia are still, key, high on the list of UK targets, not least because of the language, but more so in terms of the alignment of economies and sectors. So we're seeing a strong corridor there, despite the geographical challenges of the last 18 months. And then I suppose that's before you get into the next generation of technology, where definitely South Korea, Japan are playing strongly in the thinking of both ourselves from a government perspective, but also from companies' perspectives as well. So.
I mean, from a banking perspective, clearly, yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, the US corridor is still one of our biggest corridors, I think, and some of that is despite of or in spite of Brexit. I still think the UK is seen very much as a gateway to some of these businesses into Europe still, notwithstanding some of the logistical challenges in terms of having the same language, a time zone that kind of still works for them, and a legal landscape that's kind of similar too. And I guess we've not spoken too much about Brexit, but I guess is the view here that that still provides a further opportunity for us to develop more bilateral relationships into other countries in spite of that?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, the other side of my department is responsible for the post EU trading relationships, and if you look at the deals that have been struck to date, digital technology innovation sits squarely in those, and actually the ones that are being discussed at the minute, that's certainly high on the priorities. I think generally, actually, and it's not particularly Brexit related, coming back to the very start of this conversation, I mean, I don't think we can lose sight of the fact that we are not the only country that is interested in tech, and therefore, we have got to constantly be telling that story. And I was just jotting down some of the things Melissa was talking about in terms of why Birmingham and why the West Midlands. I mean, obviously they apply to a certain extent across the UK in terms of talent, universities, R&D, all of those things. We've just got to be, remembering that we're going to have to tell people those, on a constant basis, because, as I said, this is maybe more so even than any other sector, a globally competitive market, and therefore we certainly can't rest on any laurels.
I agree. I think almost all the pros we've talked around here in terms of a more open landscape, in terms of employee distribution and how the tech focus sector does lend itself to more flexibility there. I guess at the same time that then opens itself up to greater competition. And to your point there, Tim, this is why I guess it's important to, as you said, to make sure that Birmingham isn't a great kept secret, and the name is kind of shared more widely globally to encourage that.
Yes, it's the simple answer to that question. I mean, there's no shortcut to this, and I know, having sat on a couple of sides of the fence, and actually maybe that is where the sort of the US conversation versus other markets comes in. Yes, the size of the prize in the US is obviously enormous, and that's both in terms of customer base, but also funding opportunities. But it is equally, if not more so, competitive, and therefore I think that's why, obviously, in some cases, the US, and Melissa is more than qualified than I to talk about this, but the US is the first market. Of course, it is for a certain set of businesses, but I think that's where it's been interesting when we sort of talk to to our client base, and you just sort of probe a little bit more. That is why places like Australia come up. It is why Europe still comes up. Obviously, it's a massive market for us as well. So we always tend to do that little bit of sort of challenge with clients to say, yes, we know the US is a great market, but have you really thought about it in practical levels of details that will make it work? So.
I mean, I think from my side, I've sold so many different products in America. Obviously, I am American, so I guess I have like a decent amount of understanding of that consumer base. But they are the most similar to the UK consumer base of any market in the world. So when it comes to taking what you have and you're currently selling in the UK and translating it into a sellable product, service, whatever, in another country, it is the least amount of transition that you need to do. It's also a country that loves UK products. They love it. They absolutely love anything that's English, anything that's Irish, anything that's Scottish, anything that's Welsh. They really do. They absolutely loved it. I remember when even when Prince William and Kate got married, that was on the American TV about 6 times more than it was on TV in the UK. And I mean, like in the lead up to it, like the coverage around it, they absolutely love it. And so I think that this is why that market is so attractive, because it's not that difficult to translate to, and they are highly warm to hot on stuff that comes from our marketplace, right? In addition to that, you can look at Brexit. It doesn't matter what you think politically. From a business point of view, Brexit is a disaster. From us losing our biggest export market overnight is a big, massive disaster. And what's followed after is exactly what I knew would happen, is nobody knows what they're doing. It is literally a crapshoot when you send a parcel to the European zone. Sometimes it gets there right away. Sometimes it gets destroyed. Sometimes it costs 3 times more than what the value of the goods are. Nobody knows what's going on. And that will take, I believe, over another year for them to iron out. Whereas America, yes, it is further away. And yes, there is customs duty. And yes, you need to fill in paperwork, but it has been the same for a long period of time. It's very clear as opposed to the other side. And if you get to grips with it, you can even automate most of it. We fill in prior notices, I don't know, about 4,000 of them a week. They're totally automated. And we are shipping thousands and thousands of boxes of product to America every single week. We understand our duty rate. We build it into our price point. The consumer in America loves the product already. And they're also much less cost sensitive overall across everything in general. I have every single business I've ever had. My highest profit margin was in the US, even taking into account the extra shipping, the extra aggro, the duty and customs, more than even my home market. And so I think not using the US as the first port of call from a UK corp company, at least from a physical product point of view, I think that would be silly, because I would have said Europe all the time before, but not anymore, because that is a disaster. And I would stay well clear of it for at least another year. Yeah.
I think you're right there. It's all around trading uncertainty, right? And knowing what the rule book is. And so many corporates are still finding out some of the nuances, some of the impacts of the withdrawal agreement. And clearly, these both have practical logistic impacts and also cost impacts. And as you say, you can be trading a product at a cost that's been in place for 18 months, and all of a sudden it now costs you X% more to fulfill that. So clearly, trading uncertainty is what businesses enjoy and like, and that's, I guess, comes back to your point in terms of the US here, in terms of a long-standing trading partner where we know what it looks like, we know what it feels like, we know how to operate with it. And I guess then the flip side then comes in terms of the confidence piece to make sure this doesn't erode too much on the inward investment in the UK, that it isn't seen as being I guess a bit of an outlier there in terms of the rest of Europe, ensuring that there is the confidence to allow businesses to maintain with what you rightly said, Melissa, there, in terms of our biggest or one of our biggest export partners.
I think really, I just did my Series A completely remotely, by the way, which was really interesting, but also so much more efficient. When I did my seed round, I flew all over the world to meet people, and we did the entire thing with huge VCs and large corporate strategics via remote meetings, virtual tours, all sorts of fun things. And I think pretty much all my investors are from the US except for two. And I think that I did not find any hesitancy in investing in UK companies. And I believe the UK has still generated the most funds from big, like, VC funding of anywhere in Europe in the last year. I'm pretty sure it was neck and neck between us and Germany. And I'm pretty sure we did win again, even though Brexit happened. I think I didn't find a single hesitancy once. What I did find quite regularly is that the investors from the US were more confident in our ability to launch our product in their home market, which makes them feel more confident because they understand their home market and the scale that it can grow to if you launch successfully in America. I don't think that that's as easy for them with other types of organizations. So I don't think that we have lost anything. I think we do need to make sure that we keep pushing. And I think there are a lot of people doing that. So I'm not worried. But yeah, I spoke to humongous VCs and pretty much every major corporate that has a tangent to my industry. And not a single one of them was hesitant about investing in the United Kingdom.
Yeah, I mean, and that's certainly what we're saying. Actually, the biggest issue over the last 18 months has been general business uncertainty, not uncertainty. I think not that we keep score on the VC investment landscape, but yeah, we had more VC investment than France and Germany combined.
Good.
Yeah,
Great. Tim. Good.
Well, actually, but
Great.
so I mean, yes, we're obviously very pleased about that. But I mean, picking up on the other point, I'll get the percentage slightly wrong, but it's about 2/3 of that investment. It came from overseas as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
In some way, shape, or form. So by quantum, yes, the UK VC market is incredibly strong, as we all know. But especially in certain sectors, that we are attracting overseas investment. Overseas financial investment.
Yeah, no, I think as part of the reading ahead of this call, looking through the EY's 2021 attractiveness survey, I think that confirmed again that investors see the UK as the most attractive place in Europe, with the highest proportion making it clear for plans to invest in. I think as we've kind of said here, it's all about the continued momentum of that. Similar points. I think 2020 UK reached another record year for VC investment into tech, and I guess that's with even the headwinds of COVID. So fantastic to kind of see this increasing year on year.
Yeah, and so just the piece on the VC funding is interesting for another reason, actually, which I think is probably relevant here, which was obviously a lot of that record-breaking 2020 and indeed the first half of 2021 is driven by London, and that's great. And I obviously speak across the nation, so for me that's a good thing. But I think I would say two things. One, of course, as a region, we need to be utilizing London more. If these VCs are coming to London, then let's go and meet them halfway, so to speak. But then the interesting bit, I think, on the 2020 numbers was just how many of the regional clusters were breaking their records for VC investment. So I think there was also this piece, as we've talked about over the last 18 months, where there has been this shift in terms of what people are looking for, where that value is being created. And actually, while, as I said, London and the Southeast will still be a major part of our national ecosystem, actually it maybe plays to some of the strengths that Melissa has talked about in terms of what Birmingham can offer, what Manchester can offer, what Bristol can offer. So I think we shouldn't lose sight of that that different cluster that exists in, for example, Birmingham, and the value it brings.
Perfect. Well, conscious that we've talked quite a lot for the last 45 minutes or so. So I just pause for a second and kind of throw the floor open in case there's any questions anybody wants to put to any of the panel. There's the Q&A functionality here. So as and when anyone has any questions, please do pop those in, and we'll read out any or as many as we can as they come in. I guess whilst we're waiting for those to come through, I mean, Tim, just kind of, I guess, in terms of support that your body offer to businesses in the UK, I mean, is anything that you're keen to highlight in terms of, or signpost here in terms of where people can kind of go for help, support on this point?
Yeah. So look, I think the official answer is, we've got a whole set of programs, whether it be Export Academy, whether it be export support services. We do a trade show program where we take UK companies overseas to major trade shows. And please take advantage of all of those and get in touch if you think they're relevant. But actually, I think there's a point which Melissa alluded to, and actually, if we've got time, it would be good to just maybe quiz her on it a little. But given she experienced entrepreneur, comes from the US. Actually, I think I'm guessing that you had a fairly well-developed network. You had a fairly well-developed sense of where, what, how. Actually, when we're talking to businesses, that doesn't necessarily exist within the management team. So actually, a lot of what we do is join the dots, and whether that be with my colleagues in post in country, or actually whether it is with other entrepreneurs or advisors who have been there and done it. Actually, that sort of almost peer-to-peer challenge, but that peer-to-peer networking piece is really important. So what we found actually over the last, whatever it is, 6 months, 12 months, we've been doing more of that, because isn't it great to talk to someone who has been 12 months, 18 months ahead of you in that journey, and effectively learn from their well, hopefully small mistakes, but from their mistakes. So yeah, we've got a whole load of formal stuff. We can connect you into market, and then actually, how do we get you the right practical advice as well?
Yeah, I think it's important to mention I came to the UK when I was in my master's degree. So I started my first company in the UK. I've just ended up selling all of the products and stuff that I made in the US. However, yeah, through experience, you learn things. I also worked with DIT in my very first business. It wasn't called that then. It's called something else. UKTR. There you go. And yeah, it is really good for market visits. I think if you are trying to sell something in a market and you have not been to that market, that is a humongous mistake. You need to go there and you need to see what else is available. You need to get at least a brief view of what the culture is like, what other advertisements are out there, what is the messaging like, what are people's general demeanors like, how is the feeling in that country. I don't think you have to have people permanently there. I've never had boots on the ground in the US ever. And I've successfully sold every product I've made there. But I do believe if you don't go there and you don't touch base regularly, that is a humongous mistake. And I would really, the DIT programs that bring you to the trade fairs where you can see your competition and where you can meet potential support. So manufacturing, co-packing, shipping, logistics, drop shipping, technology solutions, brokers, distributors, and so on and so on, is very, very helpful. And it would be foolish not to take advantage of it.
I would obviously concur, and I'm glad you said it. But I think it is one of the challenges that we are now starting to see, as we've sort of been in this position for 18 months with the limited amount of travel that people have been able to do. Because I think the vast majority of people would agree with Melissa in terms of you want to see physically where it is you're going to go, what you're going to sell to, what the culture and things are. So we are starting to see a sort of pent up demand, and that's both on the trade side and the inward investment side of people being ready to commit to that international footprint in whatever way, shape or form, but they want to be able to, touch down and actually see it. So that's something we're hoping will come back on stream pretty quickly. So.
Sometime in November, right? That's what he said. Hopefully soon.
Cool. So we've got a couple of questions here from the floor. First one from Ahmed. I guess this is one to Melissa. Why has the US become more favorable for nutraceutical compared to the EU?
The EU is much less favorable for nutraceutical products. So VMS is what the bigger categories call, so vitamins and supplements. And really, the most developed market for this type of a product is the United States, and very closely behind is the UK. And to give you an idea, we can look at a basic statistic as simple as percentage of population and daily use. Okay, so in America, it's about 69% of Americans take vitamins and supplements every day. And in the UK, it's about 57 to 60%, depending on which region you look at. Now, when you look at Europe, it goes down massively, and it depends on the country, but none of them are higher than 30. And other countries, some countries like France and Italy are highly skeptical, as is Germany, of certain products about vitamins and minerals and supplements. And so that's just another easy way for me to say that's not a target market for us at the moment. Our job is not to convince people that nutraceuticals, vitamins, and supplements are beneficial. Our job is to provide amazingly high quality, highly personalized versions of those products to people that already want them, which is over half of the population of the United States and the UK, which is plenty of people. Yeah.
Perfect. Another question here for Melissa. I guess some of this has been potentially answered through your previous question from Tim. But Melissa, what setbacks have you encountered during your journey? How did you learn, recover, and reset? Secondly, what advice would you give to others embarking on this journey?
I mean, we don't have enough time for me to go through every setback that we've encountered. I encounter a setback every day, sometimes multiple on the same day. I think the point is we run our business in an always on beta kind of functionality and mentality. And I make it really clear to our team, and it's part of our culture, it runs through everything that we do, that it is much, much worse, and it is completely unacceptable to not be moving forward. What is totally acceptable and encouraged is to fail and learn. So when my team would come to me and want to make a decision, I will make a decision in the same meeting. We change things every single day as we're learning. And those things that we learn are continually added to, optimized, and improved upon across everything that we do, everything from our physical product, our packaging solution, our shipping network, our online messaging, everything, literally everything. And I think that's, again, one of the powers of the technology and the business model, which is we have no risk to change as many times as we need to in order to continually become and stay the best possible product solution for our customer and our team. And I think that is something that is not the same in a lot of businesses. And I think it's a major difference between us and other companies. And I think it was absolutely the right way to do it. And it's made us so much more successful, because at the end of the day, everybody is failing all the time, but failing slow makes it way more painful and way more expensive and way more damaging. And so, I think every single day I have several team meetings, project meetings, department lead meetings. They bring me issues and potential solutions, and we change things every single day. And I would encourage anybody who is at that early stage in your business where you can build stuff like that into your company to do that, because then there's nothing you can't handle, because you're not married to anything. Your business's only goal is to continually be the best possible business that you can for your customer and your team. And as long as that's the mission, then you can continually change.
Perfect. A question from me, I guess here. So clearly we talked about technology, we've talked about automation, and we talked about looking forward and helping businesses grow. Clearly, banks have a part to play in this. And to that point there, yeah, HSBC investing heaps in terms of how we can look to automate to help our clients grow, and also provide them a better kind of client service and path to success here. In terms of, I guess what you want to see more of, or like from your banking provider, anything to kind of add there for us to kind of take away?
I have to be honest with you, we don't really have a lot of interaction with our banking provider, which is kind of weird because we have a lot of money in the bank after the Series A. I thought it would change, but it didn't really. Take from that what you will. I think, to be honest, there are still a lot of archaic systems in banking in general, especially around business banking. I think consumer banking has moved on leaps and bounds. And I think consumers, if they are technology savvy or are comfortable with base technology, can actually, I don't think I've been to my personal bank, I don't think in 5 years. I don't even know if they have branches anymore. And that's amazing because I'm running everything through that, the online platforms and stuff. And that's really, really streamlined. I think when it comes to business banking, you've got two options really, which I think is tricky because you've got this startup option like the Starling, or the Tides, which are not fit for purpose if your business gets to even like a meaningful size, like $1 million a year and it's already too small. I mean, and I'm not saying $1 million in a year is small, but I'm saying that's not that hard for a lot of people to get to. A lot of people get to that point quite quickly. And so you outgrow them who are tech forward, and then you need to go to a more traditional bank. And the tech is, a bit behind, and like we have to go into branch for things still. Whew, it really shocks you. Like you're like, what do you want me to do? So yeah, I think that there's still a lot coming, and I see a lot of the banks making a lot of grand statements about the things that they're implementing and investing in, and I think it would be great because I think if anybody's time poor, it's certainly the business owners. Yeah. Who are running these fast growth startups. Yeah.
No, absolutely. I think a lot of this comes down to user experience and expectations.
Yeah.
And clearly, as you say, who has time to visit a branch, to fill in a form, to provide documentation, etc. So clearly, as you say, we're kind of running two themes here at times, where you have the what I perceive to be the more nimble, agile startup providers, and then the more traditional lenders for some of the bigger players. Now, I think it's definitely a changing landscape to find the middle ground between the two, where the corporates and business owners can get the user experience that they see from the more agile players, whilst the balance sheet strength, network support that the more traditional players can provide, and also add value, right, in terms of putting you in touch with potential new markets, new customers, and giving insight and, I guess, extra content there to help the business.
Absolutely. And I think that, to be honest with you, we're growing super fast. I think we could also be a resource for them as well. And I think it's a win for everybody if we get support from our bank. But I think it's just something that I have never counted on. And I have never looked for, like I've never been like, why aren't you contacting me? Where's my special person? Like I don't ever, I'm not needy and I'm very self-sufficient. But at the same time, I think that there's an opportunity to do so much more through banking that I think the traditional banking set has been kind of, well, look at all of the alternative funding methods now. Like we can borrow money from Shopify if we want to, based on our MMR. And I think that the banking system that's currently set up has a huge opportunity if they can be quick enough to offer better and solutions from trusted providers, as opposed to a lot of these, new solutions. I think that they would have a lot of money they would make, but also a lot more strong relationships they would create.
Yep, absolutely. Perfect. Well, we're slowly running out of time here, but it's been great fun, and thank you both for your input today. Really fascinating to get a real pulse check in terms of how businesses are kind of faring right now, and also great to get your insight, Tim, as well from your perspective. So thanks everyone for your time. It's been great. More than happy to take away any other questions anyone has via LinkedIn. But otherwise, thanks everyone for your time, and have a great weekend.